My name is Lexi Howell, and this is the rest of my team.
I'm Wyatt Leslie.
Joe Drive. Sean Mears.
Carl First.
Here's what you can expect for today. We're going to start with our executive summary, and then we're going to go into our property and market analysis. Then we're going to tell you all our business plan, and we will conclude with our financial evaluation summary and our end goal summary. So our property is located at 17300 North Dallas Parkway. The average rent is $15 to $17 per square foot, and there are 39 units, 20 of which are occupied and 19 are vacant. The NOI is around $560,000. And two things that we wanted to point out the property are the two large atriums and convenient access to the freeway. In our initial research, we found that the owner of our properties, Silver Star Properties, filed a going concern in their recent 10K. And since we started this presentation, that going concern has turned into a plan for bankruptcy, but we addressed this plan with the going concern in mind. As a team, we looked at 3 different scenarios to decide what would be best for our property. First, we looked at medical office reclassification. We decided to avoid this because the market is already oversaturated, and because of our current layout of the office building, it would require a lot of renovations and changing a lot of the plumbing to be suitable for medical use. Next, we looked at converting our Class B property to Class A, but we also avoided this because we found that our property is substantially smaller than typical Class A properties, and it's about 60,000 square foot smaller, which would be a lot of money to convert this, and we estimated that would be about $4 million, which exceeds our feasibility. So what we decided to go with was a value-add approach, where we were going to focus on increasing occupancy and revenue by retaining tenants, and we're also going to reassess our expenses to maximize our property value.
Now kicking it off with our site and property analysis, getting into the site analysis. So this lot has 3 main access egress points, 2 of them being the above ground parking lot, 1 of them being the underground parking lot in the bottom southeast corner, as well as there are underground lighting and above ground lighting. And one thing that we want to mention is both of these are handicap accessible and follow the rules and regulations. Some additional services that we want to mention as well is the accessibility of this lot to transportation. It's about 2.1 miles from Addison Airport and roughly 15 miles away from DFW and Dallas Love Field. Also, the accessibility to the DNT and the LBJ Freeway, and the hospital being right across from the DNT tollway. Zoning. So the city of Dallas has this currently zoned as regional retail with all 3 setbacks in the front, the side, and the rear being about 15 to 20 feet. Right now, the floor area ratio is about 0.5 for office, this property, and right now there are no balconies within this lot, and there's only 1 patio that faces the golf course. So going into our first 3 out of our 9 age of improvements that we'd like to mention that we saw on our property tour, as well as things that were mentioned by Nathan, who was the property manager of this lot. The roof was repaired in about 2015, but right now it's out of warranty, and the contractor was not paid his last 10% due to the poor job that he did. So the day porter has to go up there a lot and has to move off rainwater or any excess water building up. Another thing to mention is the HVAC. There's been a ton of problems with debris getting into the HVAC, messing up the water valves that has built up about $10,000 in water bills in roughly 8 months. Also, EMS malfunctions. Tenants have experienced upwards of 80 degrees in their units and suites. And the windows, a lot of the windows are having mold occur in them because of rainwater coming through those windows and building up mold in those leakage. The pest issues. During our property tour, we saw in many vacant units a lot of cockroaches, insects, a ton of other things that present an issue, especially with the carpet we noticed. This property, according to the property manager, Nathan, has a yellow tag fire panel, which is operational compressor sprinkler related issue. And then the plumbing, you'll see later in our presentation where we talk about the atrium. There's a lot of plumbing issues, as you can see in the underground parking garage. There's a lot of flooding because the plumbing is not set well under that atrium. And then the last 3 age of improvements is first the security issue. There's a lot of burglaries at this site. Someone got their truck stolen, $3,000 worth of firearms have been stolen, and according to the property manager, the security cameras were around the 1980s from when this building was built. The elevators, out of the 3, 1 is currently shut down due to oil leaks and shaft issues, and the other 2 that are up and running are past due inspection date from May 25th this previous summer. And then lastly, I mentioned the landscaping being in disarray with overgrown grass, dead grass in areas, and some of the trees not being fully fleshed out. Now going more into the property analysis side of things, talking about the architectural design and the construction. So this building is about 140,000 square feet, and we believe that it caters specifically to office use because of the atrium and the total building layout. There are 3 floors, and like I mentioned, the underground parking garage. Going more into the construction, starting with the interior, there are a lot of tiles in the hallways, and particularly carpet in the suites. On the exterior of that is a lot of the concrete and beams holding the building up, and 2 of our largest tenants, Pretty McGuire and Tri Global Energy, kind of being seen outside the building. Going into our gross area and complete space inventory, right now there are about 15 firms totally leasing within the building, 19 vacant units and 20 occupied units. You can see in the bottom outline in red, it might be better on your packet. You can see some of the vacant units apparent on all 3 levels. And right now there's around 39,000 vacant square foot. Now lastly, going to the property condition, starting off with the interior condition, I talked about the parking lot interior. Yes, those are lit, but on underground parking lot could contain a security issue because it's not very well lit. Office suites, I mentioned HVAC and EMS issues, as well as pest control issues. The office suites have a black glass kind of exterior where people can't see in, but also helps limit the sunlight that gets into the building. Moving into the exterior condition, the landscaping was in disarray, like I mentioned. The outer structure being that brick kind of concrete. And then talking about the caulking and ceiling, the pavement outside of the above ground parking lot is starting to erode, and you can see cracks kind of within that. Now I'm going to be passing it to Amari for the financial analysis side of things.
So going into the financial analysis, we really want to break this down into our revenues, expenses, some of our key tailwinds and headwinds. So for our revenue breakdown, we accrue the majority of this revenue through our rental revenue, but there is a 12% slither in there for expense reimbursements because this is a triple net lease. And there's also a very small slither that comes in through reserve parking income and also security access cards. Now, as we look at our expense breakdown, I really want to highlight 3 variances. So there's the water bill, where we budgeted almost 2 times less than what we actually paid out. And due to that is some of the leakage we talked about earlier. So we paid about 2 times more for our water bill. Our HVAC, we almost paid 3 times more compared to what we budgeted. And for our fire control, we paid almost 7 times the amount that we budgeted due to that yellow tag issue. Some of our tailwinds that could push us forward with this property is we can absorb eventually, potentially, shared office workspace within our submarket. There's a lack of that, which we can potentially absorb, which we'll get into later in our business plan. Also want to highlight there's a variance between the market rent and what we're currently leasing. So there's a large loss of lease that we could potentially eat into as we go throughout this hold period. And lastly, I want to talk about the viabilities and increasing amenities. There's a lack of amenities throughout this office that we plan on addressing throughout our value-added approach. Obviously, this is Class B office built in the 1980s. There's not a lot of demand around that right now, so that is one of our key headwinds. And we also want to talk about the shortage of ownership equity, since there is a current going concern. Now, for our current property value, the county assesses this property for its total market value around $14 million, but we actually calculated it out at about $9.7 million. I took the cap rate from CoStar, it's about 7.9% for the foreign inventory submarket for Class B office. I did my calculations based on the numbers that they gave us, and we have about $560,000 in NOI. Property value is a little over $7 million, and the land value is about $2.6 million.
So now going on to our market analysis, here's a visual overview of what the market, Dallas-Fort Worth, looks like, and our specific submarket, Coram Ventry. So some key things that I wanted to point out about the different markets, starting with Dallas-Fort Worth. Office demand is highly contingent on age of buildings and location. Because of this, newer buildings, 2015 to present, are only 9% vacant, while older buildings, 1980 to 1990, account for over 60% of the market's overall vacancy. And it's also important to note that Dallas is a popular market for major companies. A lot of companies are starting to move their headquarters here. There's been a lot of growth to Dallas. Some big companies that have put their foot down in Dallas are CBRE, American Airlines, Toyota, and Caterpillar. And our submarket is unique, Coram Ventry, because it taps into several different educated submarkets. And it's also a cheaper price point than surrounding markets, which can make it more attractive to people that want to live in the area or work in the area. And there's also a lot of multifamily development going on in the surrounding area, specifically near the golf course, targeted towards millennials and the working class. And lastly, the last thing that we found is a B- rating for crime. And we talked about this a little, we're going to talk more about it, but we decided that this was due to the close freeway access and nearby airport, but we wanted to find a way to try to reduce the crime, so we talked about that a little bit more in our business plan. So going on to some statistics about the Dallas-Fort Worth market, there's been negative net absorption of 1 million square feet over the last 12 months. The vacancy rate is up almost 1% to 17.9, and the market rent per square foot is also up almost 2% to 29.94. In the submarket, there's also a negative net absorption of 261,000 square feet, and the vacancy rate is up 1.32 from last year to 21.2. And one thing that I really want to highlight about our submarket is the current market rent has increased 2% in the last year, and it's currently at $28.35, which, as a remember, our property is currently trading at $15 to $17 per square foot, so we are well below the market rent. So some things I wanted to point out about demographics are the population in our area, 124,000 approximately, and there's also a lot of growth in our specific area. Within 2 miles, there's 7.5% annual growth, which is great. This leads to all the development. That's because the development going on, and the median age is around 39, and the median income ranges from around 60,000 to 110. And for employment, another key statistic we wanted to point out here was in a 2-mile radius, there are 55,000 workers, and 51% of the people in this area have a bachelor's degree or higher. And some of the key industries that these people are working in are the financial service industry, professional and business services, and trade, transportation, utilities, which each have about 10,000 employees with a 2-mile radius. And this is important to note because most of these are white-collar jobs that require people going into the office, so we think that this will drive demand to office properties. The last thing I wanted to touch on is transportation, which we talked about a little bit. And the transit score is 34, indicating sub-nearby transit, and there are several DART stations, as you can see on this map, in close proximity. Some of the DART stations are even in walking distance, which is very convenient for those who want to avoid the freeway. It's also off 2 major DFW freeways, and it's immediately off the Dallas-Fort Worth Tollway and the President George Bush Freeway. And lastly, it's 5 minutes from Addison Airport, which is a corporate aviation airport that's planning on spending $2 million to renovate and expand in the next few years. 25 minutes from DFW and 30 minutes from Dallas Love Field.
So moving on towards tenant analysis. In the next 6 months, we're planning on 2 leases expiring, which represent 60.2% of the total square footage of the property, but 25.6% of the monthly rent roll. There are 4 tenants that take up close to half the total rentable square footage of the building, and there's a huge concentration of energy and real estate industries within our tenants, with 55% of the rentable square footage taken up by these tenants. That's very concerning to a certain degree because both those industries have been crushed a lot by rising market rates as well as supply chain issues. In terms of community amenities, the nearest coffee shop is more than 2 miles away from the property. There are 2 co-working competitors in the submarket, noted by the red here, right there. 9 school districts in the submarket and 3 golf courses in the submarket marked by the green dots on the map.
Okay, so business plan. So one of the action items we plan on doing to increase our revenue is to construct a billboard on the southwest corner of the property. As you can see here, this is the property directly adjacent to us, and they have a very similar billboard to what we want to construct. And on this corner is exactly where we want to put that billboard. The second action item is we want to lease the first floor atrium space to a coffee shop to add an amenity to other people wanting to lease the building. Third action item is to increase the 2023 year-end leases to the market rent. And the fourth action item is to lease the second floor vacancy to a shared workspace company such as Regis Industrial Solutions for a certain house. So for the billboard, this would be a 2 to 3 month application process, and we'd have to submit a permit to the DMV to be able to build a billboard because we're building it right next to a freeway. There would be a 4 to 6 week period for inspection and zoning, and then another 4 to 6 weeks for review. We want to get that billboard built as fast as possible because of this 180-day period where we have to start the construction. So for the coffee shop, we would hire a leasing broker to go and find local boutique coffee shops in Dallas and see where they would want to expand in the DFW market. Then from there, we would go and negotiate the lease and try and negotiate TI allowances for square footage. But I want to point out the main point where we build this is right where the fountain is right now. We think we can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone because the fountain is actually causing a lot of leakage problems in the underground garage, and we think that's a safe bet. So for the shared workspace, as you can see on the 2nd level, there's a ton of vacancy crowded in one area on the 2nd floor. We think that we can go hire another leasing broker and go find a shared workspace company that will lease this space out. And that would be a similar process as the coffee shop. So in terms of reducing costs, one of the main points we want to talk about is reappraising the property, because the county doesn't see this as a distressed property yet. But what they don't understand is that we have one of our largest tenants coming due in 2023. So this technically would be a distressed property. We want to get this reappraised so we get a lower tax basis, so our tenants pay less than their triple net leases. So obviously you see like Baker Regato saves $4 grand, John Hancock over $11 grand annually. Tri Global, our biggest tenant, over $42 grand annually. That is a huge talking point for getting them to renew their leases and also getting the 2024 expired leases renewed as well. There's also, as we get closer to the sale process in year 3, we want to address all those issues we had earlier that Carl talked about: elevator shaft maintenance, leakage, landscape improvements, etc. So in terms of the timeline, we would implement these. We would definitely get the appraisal done first and try and get that tax basis lowered as fast as possible so we can get those tenants to renew with us. Second, we would start immediately is the billboard construction so we can add additional revenue that wouldn't just come from decreasing vacancy. Then we would try and get the coffee shop leased up as early as January 2024 so we can create demand for that shared workspace, create a space that people want to come to work. Then we would start those renovations as we get closer to the sale process. And one thing I also want to point out here too is that we could even use, because it's a double-sided billboard, we could even use one of the sides of the billboard once we have the leased shared space. We can go and promote that shared space on the billboard as well as the coffee shop. So in terms of the cost breakdown, the costs for the coffee shop and the shared lease space are fairly similar in terms of structure, mostly the broker commissions and tenant improvement allowance based on square footage. Then in terms of the signage breakdown and the other repairs before sale, we made assumptions, cost assumptions based on the components of signage breakdown to come to a total. And we also looked at online quotes for contractors in the United States.
So here's a comps map. The property is right there in blue, and then our 2 comps. The red circle property is all the way towards the bottom. The orange circle represents 17,000 North Dallas Parkway, and the green circle represents 1647 North Dallas Parkway. In terms of the comparatives, both are Class B properties. Our property falls within the range of 50,000 to 166,000 for rentable square foot. In terms of the occupancy, ours is a little bit below the lower one there in the low 70s. North Dallas Parkway is 17,000, it's 87% occupancy, and then 16479 is 76.5. As you can see, that Lexi put out earlier, the market rent is a little bit higher than what we're charging at $21.50 plus electric and $16.50 plus triple net, and the lot acreage is pretty similar for our property as well. Luckily, there is one Class B office property which recently transacted in the market according to CoStar. That would be 14,110 North Dallas Parkway. It's also a Class B property, a little bit smaller than our own at 43,200 square feet with a 4.3% cap rate. The occupancy of that property was much lower than our own, currently is at 55.1%, with an NOI of $452,320. They end up selling at a price per square foot of $72.15, and we're projecting our own property to be worth about $69.84 per square foot.
So I really want to go into the deal financing of this as well. So as we look at the capital stack currently, the good thing is that this property is owned with 100% equity. So that's crucial. So as we go into the value add stage, we plan on taking out a 24-month term loan, bridge loan, which will put our LTV at about 10%, so roughly over $1 million. So as we look at the sources and uses, we plan on utilizing 100% debt to carry out these renovation costs. We will have a small debt origination loan fee, but majority of this loan cost, majority of the property improvements will come through the renovation costs. Now, as we look at the debt pay down, like I said before, this is 10% LTV. bridge loan, SOFR plus 250 basis points. So the interest rate is going to be about 7.8%. So if you have a question about whether we can pay off our monthly debt payments, we can, because the NOI is about 5 times, well, actually about 10 times higher than what our monthly debt service payments will be. Our monthly debt service payments will be around $50,000, and currently our NOI is about $560,000. So after the 2-year period, we would eventually pay off the 10% bridge loan, and we would sell the property after that 3-year hold period and enter into reversion value. Now, as we look at reversion value, you can see that we would receive a 17% leveraged IRR. Our cap rate will be now 12%. Our NOI will almost like triple, and our equity multiple will be about 1.6 times, and we're selling the property for roughly $13.6 million. And to look at our sensitivity analysis, I really want to highlight a few things here. So obviously this is the opportunistic deal, Class B office, built in 1980s. So the variances and how much you're going to receive on the top end versus the low end is very large. So worst case scenario, we could lose a lot of money on this property, which we should obviously take into account because it's a very opportunistic deal. But there is an opportunity for us to make money as well. And given this is a 3-year hold period, we plan on executing those renovation costs and exiting the property in a quick time frame.
Moving on to risks and mitigants, there are 4 main risks to the property. One being 2 co-working firms already in the area. That's mitigated by us being in a large submarket with a lot of demand for that product. The risk of interest rate increases, that's mitigated by the fact that analysts are projecting a rate decrease for 2024 due to changes in core CPI figures. Work from home always will pose a risk for office. Now, with that being said, one of the biggest levers to get people back to the office is including amenities in the workspace. Finally, the default debt. Luckily, with the increased capital expenditures on the property, we'll have higher occupancy, which will lead to a larger rent roll to service that debt. And in summary, in terms of capital expenditures, we're using those to increase occupancy of the property, raise the rent per square foot, add amenities such as the co-working space as well as the coffee shop, and a billboard to diversify revenue streams. We plan on reducing expenses by lowering the appraised value of the property, comparing units to increase efficiency, and focus on maintenance expenses. This benefits the investors and the owners by increasing the occupancy and the cap rate so we can trade at a larger value in the market. It benefits property management teams because it can be a more efficient property management program with better units that are more well maintained and repaired. And finally, it benefits the occupants of the building because they have way more amenities to help lure workers back to the office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question on your utilization of those loan proceeds. Can you show us what you're doing with those?
What was that? I'm sorry.
The 1.1 million that you're borrowing, what was your utilization of those?
So that was going to be taken out primarily for our renovation costs.
What are those?
So if we go back to the slide on the cost breakdown, we're going to basically go over mainly our HVAC. We're going to cover that. We also need to use that in order to incorporate the shared workspace, the coffee shop, and also, like I said before, the signage and billboard.
Okay. So did you look at your renewal costs for the tenants that are expiring, brokerage commissions and TIs associated with that?
Yes, we factored that into the DCF in our units.
We also left some room as well because obviously we're not like property managers, so we can't figure out exact costs to the team. Obviously, if we're the property manager, we would go and consult with contractors on a lot of these costs, have them actually come and put a number on it so we have a number for our budget. So we did have about 10% maintenance with our line. So it costs about $900,000 to do all this, and then we would take $1 million loan, so sell $100,000 do it there.
Well, part of it is the loan cost that you're paying for. Sales in your DCF, you told me a cash flow analysis to see what the impact would be to those on cash flow. It seems like you're saying that debt service analysis provided that there was a negative cash flow on the property.
No, there's well, right now the NOI is positive, so the net income is also positive as well. I believe the net income is around a little over $200,000 on the property.
Okay.
I want to make a comment first. That was really good. I thought you did a great job. Your students, not practitioners. Like you said, you're not product managers. A lot of things you didn't know. You had to fill in the gap with some assumptions. Maybe you should have listed those, but I'm sure there's going to be more questions. We're going to get pretty picky, but hey, just let you know that you did a great job. I'm really impressed with what you've given to work with and what you've done with this. So you have a 3-year hold period, and so what your occupancy is 50% now, right?
It's about 71% right now. But it could result in 50% once those leases expires at the end of 2023.
Okay, so what are we assuming? We're going to lease out all of that contiguous space to the workspace? What is it called?
The shared office workspace.
Sure.
So our main thought process on that was we're looking at the main demand drivers. Like we're close to the Addison Airport, which is receiving about a $2 million expansion right now. So we're seeing in a lot of people like business professionals coming in. And right now there's only 2 shared office workspaces within our submarket. So our thought process was, hey, we could probably absorb some of this submarket share and increase occupancy as well, which was one of the case objectives.
Good.
Do you mind going back to the last slides?
So that's good that you pointed that out, because I didn't catch that in the presentation.
Yeah, so we think this is all vacant as of right now, and we think that we can lease that up and reduce our vacancy by 10%.
So let's say, look here, at what point do you get August of 24? So within a year's period, you're going to bring those guys in, you're going to have it all built out?
Well, we plan on having it built out, and hopefully by the time that we enter reversion value by the end of year 3, we'll at least have a little bit of it leased out, and then we can also then sell it off, hopefully for a slight premium to our to the interested buyer for having that there and increase the occupancy.
Are you going to offer any free rent to your new tenants?
So for our new tenants, we don't plan on drastically increasing their rent initially. What we plan on doing is offering a little concession with the signage for the billboard. So that's one thing we're doing. Also for our tenants leaving, we are doing that property tax reassessment, which saves out a lot of money on the triple net leases.
Remember that impacts your revenue too. So just because you saved it doesn't mean you get it, because you're saving that for this.
And that's a good thing to point out. We just want to also maintain occupancy as well, and not have a risk of them leaving as well, and missing out on that rental income if they were.
So I'm going to say the rent roll, there was 2 deals done in 2023 that were around 20 to 22 gross.
You said 2022.
$20 to $22 gross rents. Those were done this year, which is less than what which are assuming.
Well, the submarket rent is about $28.35, but we're currently leasing well below that. We plan on gradually increasing our rents to eventually hit market rates. We probably won't hit that by the time we sell off the property, but the next buyer will have the chance to potentially increase the market rates.
I've got a comment about the tax appeal. I mean, if you're going to make assumptions, you might as well make that assumption that you're going to do it first, because there's your the highest value that you can get out of this is reduce those taxes. But in the reality of how that process takes place, you might want to drill down on it and take a look at it. You don't just walk into the appraisal district and say, form my taxes. So there's a process you have to do, and it may take more than a year. It may take more than 3 years. I don't know. So what would be your plan B if you can't get that done?
Yes, sir. So I actually work at a property tax firm that actually specializes in lending for that, and I often work with appraisers for that. So the property tax typically takes about a year for the commercial properties. The way it works is this. They come out with the bills, they do the appraisals in the fall of the preceding year. They issue the bill by January 31st of the year, and then you appeal for next tax year in June. Our plan is to get that process started as soon as possible in June of 2024. That way for 2025, our tax bill on January 31st is to be drastically reduced.
Good. So you're going to start the process. It's just not going to be
Yes, sir.
realized. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm down. Good.
Any other questions?
I've got one question. Were any other amenities considered besides the coffee shop to try to attract tenants, especially those that are working from home currently?
Yeah, so we looked at a ton of different amenities like a shared conference room, maybe putting a gym on the first floor.
But the more we looked at it, we wanted to add smaller amenities because, well, it's a large office building, but this isn't like a high rise in downtown Dallas, right? So we wouldn't actually have the number of tenants to support a lot of the amenities we looked at. So we decided to go with a smaller boutique coffee shop building.
Also, adding on to what Joey had to say there, we considered having daycare as well as a gym. The thing about those is the fact that we'd have a tough time leasing it out, so it'd be a hard cost to our bottom line. With having a coffee shop as well as a working space, that actually adds to the lives and doesn't take away from that.
One last comment, I'm gonna be quiet. So I didn't really see your CapEx plan pop out of it. In your analysis, you said that the building's mechanical systems, the inner workings of the building are tired. But I didn't see where we were gonna address that. Did I miss that?
So I'll answer that. So we didn't get to that totally because we wanted to stay within that 30-minute time frame.
Okay.
But we tried to briefly address it with those renovations. It might be kind of hard to.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, but it might be kind of hard to. But we plan on doing those like smaller renovations that we mentioned with the HVAC, with the plumbing, and all of that before the reversion value at the end of year 3.
Okay.
Sorry, I got one more thought. Is that on the leasing at the coffee shop, you've got a fairly good rental rate associated with that, but I don't know if you're going to have much business other than internal tenants that I don't think they're going to drive up, go to the coffee shop. So I question the ability of that to pay rents, and also if it is amenity, just an amenity to attract them to this, that it's not generating real revenue to the building other than helping bring in new tenants. So
I can speak to that question. So do you mind going back to the cost map, please? Or one prior? Well, a lot earlier. Yep, so right here. These are the two coffee shops. As you can see, they're on the left side of this highway, leaving on the right side with access to all these people along here. Additionally, that WeWork space is actually associated with a hotel. So that WeWork space is right on there with the hotel, which is right on that property. I think that we would have significant demand for the coffee shop because it is the only coffee shop within a 2-mile radius of the property. It's also right near that country club as well as regular shopping center and a hotel right there. So I believe we would have that answer.
So now I have a question. Does the subject property have the parking available to accommodate retail public traffic to come to your coffee shop?
Yes, we have over 470 parking spots, and that's much more than what our current tenants could utilize. So we have 470 parking spots for that.
Additionally, there's a separate entry point as well, so it won't actually clog up any foot traffic to our main tenants.
Okay, I have a hard stop.
Thank you.
Good morning to you all. My name is Trevor Hayner, and I'm the CEO of North Texas Consulting Firm. And I'm honored to stand here before you today and give a professional report alongside my esteemed colleagues and friends. First, I would like to start off with introducing my friends, beginning with our President and CFO, Ben, our CMO, Dahlia, and then Jose, our CIO. So this journey has been brought forward to us over the past 3 weeks, analyzing the commercial real estate market. And during this time, we've had an opportunity to meticulously evaluate this property alongside these friends, and we believe that we've come up with a comprehensive plan of action that can be taken for this property. And over the course of the next half hour, we will be presenting a professional report, starting with our site and property analysis, leading to our financial analysis, our market analysis, demographics, analysis of alternatives, and ultimately unveiling our proposal. I would like to cede the floor to our President and CFO, Ben Marlette, who will start with the site and property analysis.
Hi, my name is Ben, and I am going to go over our site and property analysis. Here we have Bentry Green. It is located at 17300 North Dallas Parkway. It is a Class B property currently assessed by the Dallas County Appraisal District at $15 million. It sits on 3.2 acres of flat grassy land, and it has a modern exterior consisting of glass and concrete slab. Here we can see our North Eagle view. So it's close proximity to Dallas North Tollway, as well as Knoll Trail Road, giving it ease of access to emergency vehicles and lots of traffic flowing by every single day. Here we see a greater view of the area. Our South Eagle view shows how close it is to the private Addison Airport and our exclusive Bent Tree Country Club right in the backyard. For our interior, it consists of 3 elevators and 2 large skylit atriums with large water features as well. Even though it was built in the 1980s, it still has a modern contemporary design. Just below the property is a large parking garage. It is 2 stories, and it holds the majority of our 470 parking spaces on the property. Although Bent Tree Green is a beautiful property, it has some things it needs to work on, such as missing ceiling tiles in the parking garage, messy wiring in the electrical rooms, as well as broken glass on the exterior. And now I will leave it to Jose to go over our zoning and flood.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jacob Jose, and I am the CIO of North Texas Consulting. Today, I'll be talking about floodplain, zoning, traffic count, and the beginning of financial analysis. So let's jump in. Looking at the graph, we are not in the 100-year floodplain, which is a good thing. Currently, we are zoned RR, which is retail and office. Looking at the graph for our traffic count, over 100,000 vehicles pass by our building each and every single day, which is great because we are prime real estate. Now let's deep dive into financial analysis and the rent roll. Our 2 biggest tenants are Purdy McGuire and Tri Global Energy. Combined, make up 30% of our rent roll. Our building is 70% occupied by square foot. But if you take a tour of our campus, it seems 100% empty. There are 2 main reasons for this. We have 2 huge atriums, which are all common space, which we cannot rent out. And 2 being COVID. A lot of employees like staying at home or just coming in 1 or 2 days to the office. Now, I'll pass it back to Ben with our income analysis.
Thank you. Here, our income analysis shows that Bent Tree has a total gross annual income of about $2.3 million and a total annual operating expense at $2.1 million. This leaves the property with only $240,000 every year to work with, which is showing us it most likely has cash flow problems. We did some research, and we got a loan quote from JLL, and they valued our property at $10.3 million with an interest rate of 8.33%. I used that to develop our current rates of return to reflect the current sale. I put the market value at the current sale price at about $11 million. I put our income and expense change at 0% to anticipate a quick sale. And I used an interest rate of 10% because we see that we anticipate that a lender would see this property as a high-risk property, and they would want a extra fee for the risk. And we can see our loan releases here. This is showing that they are currently paying off their loans, as well as wanting to mention that they have paid off all of their loans for their property. And next, I will go over our market analysis. Bent Tree Green is located in the attractive submarket of Dallas-Fort Worth, specifically North Dallas in the Quorum Bent Tree submarket. It has a very close vicinity to airports, only 15 minutes away from Dallas Love Field, 20 minutes away from Dallas-Fort Worth, and only 5 minutes away from the Addison Executive Airport. This makes this an attractive location for business owners. Here, we see the DFW office market cycle for the third quarter from David Muller of 2023. It shows us at position 6 on the cycle, just leaving phase 1 recovery and entering phase 2 expansion. Now, this graph encapsulates all A, B, and C properties, but with the current high popularity of Class A in the new construction, we feel that this skews the position of B and C properties. We believe B and C properties are actually in phase 3 hypersupply or even phase 4 recession. This is shown by a new development just 8 minutes north of our property called Haggard Farms. It consists of multifamily, restaurants, and especially new Class A building just in our back door. Now, we have DFW net absorption and deliveries. You can see that DFW's vacancy is significantly higher than the United States as a whole, with an increase coming in the next year and a half or so. And you can see with high positive net deliveries, those are all those Class A's being built, generating negative net absorption with all of those vacancies currently. Narrowing our view a little bit to the Quorum net absorption deliveries in our Quorum submarket, we can see that their vacancy is even higher than DFW as a whole. And you can see how there's not much new building going on. In fact, there's negative net deliveries and especially negative net absorption, showing that people are actively leaving the area. And next, we have our net employment change, showing that the employment is decreasing for the first time in a couple of years. And you can see by the middle of 2024, there will be no employment change in DFW. And next, for our comparables, Venture Green is at 28% vacancy, which is a high vacancy, but it is not as high as our competitors at 33%. Now, our rent per square foot is at $12 per square foot, but that's compared to our competitors at $25. Now, I know that seems low. I want to mention that that 12 does include our common areas, and our actual rent per square foot is in the high teens and low 20s, which is still lower than our market. And lastly, on our drive up to the property, we see a couple for sale and for lease signs all down Dallas Parkway, showing that all of our competitors' offices are vacant. And lastly, I'll go over our demographics. In Dallas-Fort Worth, the population is increasing exponentially over the course of the last 15 years, and we do not see that changing anytime soon. And now, I'll give it off to Dahlia to go over an analysis of all the numbers.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. So my name is Dahlia Saloom, and I'm the CMO of North Texas Consulting Firm. Over the past 3 weeks, we had the opportunity to examine and assess the Venture building. After much deliberation, we determined 3 potential considerations, some more feasible than others. The first was to make capital improvements to the property. Initially, we believed we could make these capital improvements by adding things such as gyms and different amenities for the tenants, as well as remodeling the entire property with the intent of increasing its property value and enhancing its curb appeal. The risks we came across with this method were, as Ben had previously stated, the property is facing cash flow difficulties, meaning they are lacking the funds needed to make such improvements. Our second consideration was to convert the office space into luxury apartments or condominiums with a beautiful view of the golf course. This method would be financially detrimental to Venture as a whole. On September 13th, Apartment Venture, who is now formally doing business as Silver Star Properties, filed with the SEC stating that their subsidiary is filing for voluntary relief under Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code. This is in violation of their company agreement and ultimately triggering a default bankruptcy. In their attached exhibit, they state how they will continue their shift from self-storage or from office spaces moving into self-storage, which we will go in depth more later on in the presentation. Additionally, according to the apartment market cycle forecast, the DFW area is in hypersupply. The apartment complexes have an occupancy level that is expected to decrease over the next few years, and ultimately, with the high cost of construction, it is anticipated that new development will begin to slow down for apartment complexes within the next year to 2 years. Finally, our last method was to sell the property entirely. This is a Class B building, and although it is fully functioning and in good condition, it does not contain the higher end fixtures such as architecture and different developments as Class A buildings do. Class B buildings have higher operational costs and higher maintenance, which many lenders see riskier investments. With that being said, although this is a sustainable for potential buyers, we do not believe it is in the best interest of Silver Star Properties. With that being said, I will pass it on to Trevor, who will go more in depth with what we believe aligns best with Silver Star's method and their visions for the future.
Hi, as we go into the proposal section of this, I would like to start with the filing of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We believe that Silver Star Properties could capitalize on filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy and using the Reorganization Act to align the mothership with moving to self-storage. So, with analyzing current events and reading through news articles recently, as this one is stated on August 6th, as we see DFW is the second and the highest in the top commercial metros in the country, and yet still year over year it declines about 17% new constructions. And with that, lenders are facing foreclosures on properties, especially for B's and C's, as lenders see Class B's and Class C apartment or office spaces as more risky. And with most office spaces on interest-only loans, there's a balloon payment soon to be due in the near horizon. And with that, there's going to be a flood to the market. And with the flood of the market, we believe that values can drop between 30 and 40%. So, with the listing price of $11 million and tax assessed for $15 million, we believe that we thought about analyzing the property and lowering the taxes, but we think that $15 million tax assessed would look good to an investor at $11 million asking price. So, to beat the market of foreclosures, we suggested selling the property. How we're going to do this is we believe raising the price to $12.2 million. And by doing this, we're offering a 10% buyer's commission fee to buy the property at $1.2 million. And then that would start the marketing ahead of the property to be sold. Next, we would like to tackle the other event of finding hard financing, as this could be riskier for investors, by using owner financing. We believe that we could ask for a 10% down payment with 70% owner finance and 20% at a below market average rate with owner finance at 6% for it to be easier to obtain financing. And if the new owner decides to ever default, the building is still at least 70% paid off and can be repositioned and sold again. With the filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, we believe that a bankruptcy judge would appeal to the property as it's been paid off, could be used the funds to accelerate Silver Star Properties into the new venture and potentially fund multiple self-storage units. And with this, they can pay back undisputed creditors, and then along with having the steady flow of income from owner financing the property, there's still more money to improve and also encourage to pay off investors or creditors. With this, I would like to, in closing, state that with our fiduciary duty, we've analyzed the commercial market at many aspects over the past 3 weeks, and we cannot, in good faith, bring to you another presentation other than accelerating the sale of the property that could be used for Silver Star Properties. So with that, I would like to open up the floor to any questions about our proposal, and thank you for your time.
Good job. Is there debt currently on the building?
No, sir.
No, so they filed a partial release of lien, releasing this property specifically from the total sum.
You know what their equity value is?
For
So they have equity in this building, right?
So they've initially paid off the $8.4 million, and that is all the funds.
So it's clear for you?
Yes, it's free and clear.
Good job, buddy. Very good job. And very creative in your plan. You must have some savvy instructor that
So, So the driver, so sell the property is the plan. The driver, you raise the value of the property or the cost of the property. What drives that value? Why will a buyer pay a higher value than it's currently valued at?
So it's currently tax assessed for $15 million. And so we think asking 11 is fine, but we want to create a more market scheme, so adding a 10% buyer fee to it. That's 10% of money. That's $1.2 million in the pocket immediately as soon as they buy the building. So it'll be marketed like that, and on top of that, it'll be owner financed to obtain easier financing for them. So it looks like a deal because it is priced properly compared to the tax assessed value.
In your belief, is it a deal?
That's why we believe we should sell the property, because of our fiduciary duties, we could not come up with a different proposal to keep the building.
Are you relying on Silverstar? They are. We believe that we a deal for, especially at headquarters, for buildings who want to come in there and make that entire building their base. The people who are willing to take out a loan to spend $100 per square foot to make that their central operation. That's who we would be marketing to.
So we know you have to make some pretty gross assumptions, but in reality, did you do any research to see if there's buyers out there that would be willing to put down 70% on this loan? I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah, there's currently a lot of foreign investors coming from India, and especially like traveling to Texas in general. There's a lot of demographics, a lot of businesses that are moving here, and with Class A office buildings still in construction until about 2025, 2026. There is a potential buyer for sure that we believe could be projected to buy this building in the near future because of the lack of Class A buildings currently available.
So you're offering a 10% seller's commission, which is good. Did you check around on that and see how much a brokerage firm would hustle to get this thing on the market and get it sold? Another assumption.
Yeah.
Hey, 10% is going to really get them out there hustling. They're going to find you several prospective buyers that are willing to put 7% down on the building.
Yeah, there's just $1.2 million in their pocket when he talks for sure. So that's what we're thinking. And then also a financing, also securing easier financing than the 6% finance.
Okay. So currently, the building is listed for sale. So we're just going to knock on that. With our 10% fee, we want it off the market 30 days. That's what we're offering. We want it to come fast.
Were you able to find out if they had any bites on this building, if they had any prospective buyers? I mean, it is on the market. Were you able to get any information on that? I just wondered.
Not to do so, we didn't. I don't think we were allowed to access that information.
Okay, all right. I have some inside information.
You do? So, any other questions?
I think
I like your analysis on the Haggard Farms being serious competition and where you are in the market cycle. I think that just bolsters your idea of disposing of this property as quickly as possible. Good job.
Yeah, I was really afraid you were going to go with option number 2 and try to do that.
So, thank you guys for your commentary.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much.
So, first of all, thank you all very much for your time. This is a valuable experience for all of us. My name is Manuel El Castillo.
My name is Cecilia Kitsu.
I'm Heather Quinn.
I'm Sharp Sid.
I'm Noah Bose.
I'm Emily.
And we're the Comic Consulting firm. Today we have put together a management plan for Ben Street Green. Today's presentation will consist of a property analysis, then we're going to go into financial analysis, then we're going to look at a market analysis. Next, we will look at demographics, followed by analysis of alternatives, And lastly, we're going to look at the proposals and then the marketing plan to wrap things up today. So next I'll pass it over to Noah for the property analysis.
So with the property analysis, as you see, this is the Bent Tree Green property. It is located right next to the Dallas North Tollway, and across on the rear side is the golf course, which is the Brent Tree Country Club. As we move on to the next slide, I can give you some fast facts on the property. So the size of this property is 3 acres for the plat, and the plat's shape and size is an irregular octagon. We go further down the line, the current zoning setbacks required are for the minimum front yard, which is 15, and the urban form setback, side yard, rear yard are all 20 feet, maximum height is 70, and the existing floor area ratio, or the FAR, is 0.26. To further go on to this slide, it is a little bit blurry, but as you can see on the page, this is the easements map. Easements are basically just drainage on the top corner, as well as on the top part of the parcel, and on the right side where the golf course is facing. There is also the front access and egresses, which are located on the left side of the parcel, as well as on the south side, which are the Dallas Parkway and Knott Trail Drive. The location and availability of utilities are that, of course, there is a major highway on the left, and also there are the two airports, the Love Field Airport, as well as the DFW Airport, within the range of 13.9 miles and 19.3. The zoning and land use for this property is that it is a regional retail, and from what I've gathered, there is no need for an SUP or RAR application, which is basically just the special use permit or the residence agreement application. Moving on to the next slide, I would like to discuss the actual property itself. So for the age of improvements, this was constructed in 1983. There have been recent renovations throughout the recent years, costing around $1.2 million. The architecture style of the building is 1980s modernism with stone and glass around the perimeter in a ribbon style. There's also the construction aspect of this building, which it is in fair quality according to COSAR, as well as some tinted windows as well. For the shape of the building, as you will see in the next slide, it is symmetrical with a zigzag pattern on the edges. Some more details on the property analysis is that their gross area is 159,609 square feet, and the occupancy is 20 occupants with the square footage being 100,000 square feet, and for the 19 vacancies it is 39,000. That's around 39,000 square feet with an occupancy rate of 71.39%. Now, the largest part and largest details of this property is that there are many tenants with maintenance. I also have to say that there are, as you see through the pictures, that there is many repairs that need to be needed. Even with the 1.2 million renovations, there are still signs of neglect within the property. The interior design are outdated, as well as the fact that many parts, as you can see right here, of the garages are pretty much falling apart, with the ceiling tiles completely removed, and even some of the ceiling tiles are bulging downwards where there is water leakage happening with the pipes running through the top part of the garage. I'll also say that in these lounge areas within the property, that there are no comfortable places to relax, and also that the windows of this property are not tinted correctly or fully throughout the building, so that the temperature of the building will increase, which does play a factor on the HVAC system of this venture green. The most important fact of this property is that it has great potential. For success of this property, our motto
our motto for renovating the company is to have safety, reliability, and comfortability for the whole investment to increase the capital improvements, the potential development, and most importantly, maximize property value. Now, send it off to Manila for the financial analysis.
Thank you, Noah. So for the financial analysis of Ben Street Green, we're first going to look at the rent roll. So you can see here, all the leases are office tenants. Town Square Mortgage is the largest tenant with 22,000 square feet. Additionally, the average suite size is around 4,500 square feet. And one of the main challenges of this property right now is, as you can see, the vacancies, and as well, there's 3 tenants coming up for renewal in the next year. So next up, we're going to look at the unimproved property value of Ben Street Green. The present value of our returns are around $6.8 million with $51 per square foot. We get to this number by assuming a 5-year hold with an 8% discount rate. Right here, we just want to stabilize the property, then keep it for around 3 years, and then dispose it at the end of 5 years. With that in mind, we took the following leasing assumptions. The market rent, we took $15 per square foot, which is giving with an additional 3% fixed step increase, as well as $40 per TI, 12 months of free rent. And next, we took the disposition as an 8% reversion cap of the year 6, and which accounts to a net sale price of $12 million or $95 per square foot. Next up, we're going to take a quick look at the income analysis. So here, what I want to highlight is that the first year NOI is $42,000, while the second year, when the property is going to stabilize, is going to be around $970,000. Next up, I'll pass it over to Emily for the market analysis.
This time I will go over the market analysis. As you can see here, Ben Street Green is right on the Dallas North Tollway. We also have the surrounding properties which include residential areas as well as easy access to 635 and downtown Dallas. The nearby amenities include various restaurants like Village and the Restaurant Road, offering a variety of different options for the tenants. There is also Galleria and the shops of Willowbend, which include various different retail stores. And there's also 2 major airports that are only 22 minutes away. The back of Ben Street Green is the Country Club headquarters that features a really beautiful golf course that you can see in some of the office spaces. The market and submarket of Ben Street is the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The submarket cluster, as I've shown in this map, is far north of Dallas, and the red dot represents Ben Street Green. The submarket area is a forum/point tree. For the transportation, in 2023, the worker time, according to CoStar, is less than 30 minutes, is 67.46 in a 1 mile radius. When we go to the 5 mile, it also continues this trend of 64. So the majority of workers, it takes them less than 30 minutes to travel. For the population, we can see here that from 2010 to 2023, the population has grown significantly at 94.8%. The trend that is going to follow this in 5 years is 9.99%, which is way more than the national average of 0.1%.
Thank you, Emily. All right, so on to the absorption analysis. The absorption analysis will give us the net change in the occupancy of the property office suites within a certain amount of time. So over here, we see that there are fluctuating numbers in the net absorption square foot. We got positive, we got negatives. What does this tell us? This entails that Bentry Green is not getting a constant flow of tenants into the property. And why is that? Let's look at net absorption by submarket real quick before I answer that question. You can see that far North Dallas has almost double the amount of square feet absorption in comparison to our other submarket categories. And the reason why that our vacancy rate still remains quite higher than the market average by about 6% is because, now going on to the vacancy rate over here, because our building has much to be fixed. I would describe it as quite a tired building. Why? We see that there are fluctuations in the vacancy rate and availability rate. Between 14 and 2016, we have a large variation, but they kind of go in line at this date. And in order to improve the vacancy rate, will be described through our comps analysis. So here are a list gathered by CoStar for comps related to Bentry Green property. And I grabbed 6 out of the comps listed previously to look into further investigation. We have Bentry Place, Knoll Trail, Dominion Plaza, University Plaza, Monfort Park, and Adrian Collins. So the similarities that you see within these years is that they all seem to have similar percentages, around 60-70%. Currently, Bentry Green holds at about 72% leased. So we see that in comparison with our competition. We're relatively on the same line. We're all struggling a bit on vacancy. We have a higher than the overall market. And our plan, which you will hear in our proposal, is to revive the building, right? We want to go inside, we want to be wowed by the building, and that is what this property is lacking. Our goal is to bring safety, reliability, and comfortability, as told by Noah earlier. And now on to the demographics slide here.
So here is the data for unemployment as well as income. As you can see, within 1 mile radius of Bentry Green building, we have the majority, which is 27.5%, to have an income over $200,000 per year. However, when it comes to 3 mile and 5 mile radius, the majority of the people have an income of $25,000 to $50,000 per year, and that gives us the 2023 average household income for 1 mile radius to be approximately $140,000 per year, and for 3 mile radius, we have approximately $95,000 per year. For 5 miles, we have approximately $100,000 per year. And here's the visualization of the data. As you can see, although most people within not only the 1 mile radius, but also the county, have an average income about around 25K to 50K, you can see we do have a large amount of households that have over 200K plus income per year. And in terms of the traffic, as you mentioned earlier, the Bentry Green building is right next to Dallas North Tollway, which is very convenient, but that also does bring a downside, which is the traffic. As you can see from the data, we have a average daily volume ranging from 40,000 to 150,000, which is not very good. But we do have a solution or alternative for that. As you can see, this is probably not very clear, but as you can see here, just below our Bentry Green building, we have the Sojourn Drive, which only has about 2,000 average daily volume, which is significantly less than Dallas Tollway. In terms of why choose Dallas, well, we can all agree Dallas is pretty great. It's ranked number 2 for real estate market for 2023. It's also leading pro-business environment with over 200,000 jobs added per year. And it's also ranked number 1 MSA for projected population growth with more than 400,000 population growth
by 2027. And that is, of course, we have about 300 new residents moving to DFW daily. Now, last year's the age distribution around the three-big building. This column represents 1 mile radius. The second column represents the 3 mile radius, and the last one represents the 5 mile radius. Within all of the radius, we have an average age around 38 years old to 40 years old. So it's all about middle-aged residents, which is all in the working class. And next up, I'll pass on to the analysis of potential.
So for the analysis of all alternatives, we would go quickly on this. There are many issues and concerns that we also do have. For one important thing I would say is that 2 of the elevators are out of date, have been out of date since May of 2022, so that needs to be fixed. As well as the fact that the fountains within the atriums are causing damage to the structure, to the humidity. I'll also say that we will not be able to remove these fountains just because of the extreme cost to just leave it out. The previous management did not do a good job of making sure that the property was maintained well. However, there is a new project manager who is making sure that the project is being kept up recently, and we hope that with our improvements, we will be improving state exponentially. There is also many future developments, including things as a possible golf course area, and as well as adding a golf course within various funding methods that will come after the maintenance and other things that increase revenue. Now, that's what I'll show.
Thank you, Noah. Now we move on to our actual proposal for the solutions that we can implement for this property. Now, starting off, all of our funds allocated for this project will go into 2 different investments. First will be the increasing the revenue for the property, and the next will be covering the expenses that are necessary for the well-being of the location. Now, the timeline and the order by which we'll implement all of these solutions goes and starts with reducing our expenses. All these non-essentials costs will be removed, and then we'll move on to increasing our revenue. By investing in ways to increase our revenue, we'll be able to invest more in amenities and thus improve the overall well-being of the property as well as the desirability for new tenants. First, I'm going to review the specifics of the plan and then get into the financials of it. Now, the methods to increase revenue that we've highlighted are first to rent out unused spaces in the vacancies. Now, we have conference rooms available, which we have priced at $49 an hour, as well as offices inside of our vacancies, which we can also rent out as well. Next, we can also add a coffee shop at the beginning of the building. Once we enter it, the front floor will have the coffee shop set up and it will provide us with a steady stream of income, as well as add to our amenities as well. This also helps increase our desirability for potential new tenants. Next, we can also increase our current tenant rent, which is justified by investing in amenities. This will also provide us with a greater cash flow as well. Lastly, after all this is done and after there is expendable revenue to put into marketing, we'll be able to gain new tenants as well as invest in signage as well as marketing. Now, the necessary repair-based expenses are vital in order to make sure that the property is viable for the next few years. Now, all of this starts with the water damage, mainly the pipes, the leaky windows, as well as the humidity from the fountain. Now, once that is fixed, we'll have to move on into the windows. The problem with the windows is that they excessively heat the building, which does cascade into an effect for the HVAC system, where it works into overdrive. This, in turn, also negatively impacts the HVAC system as they become outdated and have low quality. Next, as Noah had mentioned, the elevators are overdue by their inspections, as well as the overall cleanliness of the elevators is compromised. Lastly, the underground garage also has a variety of different issues, with the gates not being functional, with the lighting being very dim, as well as water leakage in the ceilings. Now, as for the finances of the minor amenities, this starts out with seating and entertainment for the open areas in our atriums, as well as the open spaces outside the elevators on each floor. Now, all this total comes out into $16,372 allocated as our tenant improvement allowance. And same with the coffee shop equipment. All this total comes out to $10,261 in order to invest in the equipment for the coffee shop for the front foyer. Next, for the repairs and maintenance that we will have to expend. First, the water damage has yielded a total of $558,000 for our total expenses. Next, the tinted windows have $181K that will need to be spent on. And the HVAC system is our biggest expense of all. Since the units are so faulty, we need to do a total replacement of the HVAC system, and this will cost about $1.5 million. Lastly, the elevators and the garages will also have their own associated costs, which are comparatively lower than the water damage, the tinted windows, and the HVAC systems. And all this total comes out to $2.25 million. Next, I'll hand it off to Manuel for the financial analysis of the proposal.
Thank you, Sean. So next, the asset proof value of the property will yield returns of $10 million with around $74 per square foot, and the present value created will be around $3 million per square foot from our previous valuation. For this analysis, we took into account the cash flow assumptions of higher rent, as well as the coffee shop, as well as the expense reductions from the maintenance and repairs. The disposition price around $19 million, and a capital cost of $2.2 million. The sharp Next, on the income analysis, here we just want to highlight the increase in revenue from our cash flow assumptions, and which will increase the NOI to $542,000 for year one and $174,000 for year two. Additionally, we got a letter of intent from a cash-heavy investor, and given the interest rates right now, we decided to not opt for debt service, so that's why we didn't include that there. And additionally, the capital expenditures are not and next, the return on investment analysis, we got a return on cost of around 1.37 times capital invested, and an IRR of around 45.57%. Next, I'll pass it off to Leslie.
Thank you. So for our marketing strategy, we decided to implement the use of signage. With signage, our tenants will be able to publicize their company's name and their brand onto our building. So price will vary on the size of their font and the location on which is placed on the building. We're looking at about $50,000 to $100,000 in a year for the lease of the tenants. And the great thing about having signage is our location for this property is great. We have exposure to the highway close to George Bush and North Dallas Tollway. All right, and I'll pass it on to the advertising portion to Emily.
Okay, when I searched up available office space in Dallas, then Tribune did not pop up on the first page. So I recommended some Google ads or CoStars or even posters. So I prepared some brochures that they can offer so that the tenants can pick it up and get some more information. And with that, I'd like to conclude. Thank you for your time. This has been a great learning experience, and I look forward to hearing the results. And I'm opening the floor for any questions.
So I think that I heard it that it went quick. Where are you going to get the funds for the initial first year? I thought I heard no debt, but then I also thought I heard of a lot of capital improvements.
Yeah. So what we're planning with the 5-year hold is to get a cash investor, given that the rates are very high right now. A cash investor to invest the $2.2 million that we need in order to fund our capital improvement, and invest it, stabilize it, hold it for 2 years, and then sell it in year 5 to get his return on investment.
Okay. So in your income analysis, you're showing a negative cash flow of $4 million in the first year versus said you needed $2 million of investor. Where's the other $2 million come from?
That comes from the leasing assumptions. The leasing costs that are going to incur because we have to use obviously a real estate agent to be able to lease out our spaces, and plus the concessions that we're going to get. As you can see here, we're going to incur another $2.4 million for the leasing cost. plus the capital expenditures, will lead to a negative cash flow in the first year.
So investors are gonna come in and invest $4 million. You're gonna sell, what's the present value, $6 million of the building, is that what you said? So we're selling.
Present value is
65% of the.
They invest 4 and they sell for 13.
Or 19.
19.
Yeah, we took the previous one. So we took a disposition price based on our year 6 NOI, an 8% cap rate, which is a Class B office building. They require a higher return for their investments, and it's a riskier asset. So we assume that an 8% reversion cap at the least with around $19 million reversion net sale price at the end of year 5.
So I'm just curious, when you talk about potential investor coming in and investing $4 million in the building at $6 million, did you think about just selling it outright? I mean, they're buying the majority of the building anyway. Would they want to come in and be a co-investor with the current owners, or they would have a better, again, 45% internal rate of return? Would they more likely come in and just buy the building and affect those changes themselves? Something to think about.
Yeah, so we think that of course, if the current owners were to come up with this capital, it would be a great investment for them. But given that it's a $4 million is a lot of money, we believe that it would be better off with a cash-heavy investor, because this is a risky asset that currently has a lot of vacancy. So we would have to, I think the current owner would have to assess his financials and see if he can take on those capital improvements, because he cannot improve a lot of things throughout the last couple of years. That's why the property has suffered so much. So if he were to come up with the capital to invest, I think it would be a return worth his investment.
It's tough to make these assumptions. You gotta make some assumptions.
Yeah.
So we get it, we understand. And so you had some hard nuts to crack, but I will tell you that I think you did a really good job of identifying the repairs and maintenance that needs to be done in the building. And probably before you even did your presentation, Greg and I were talking about how much money you ought to put into it.
Yeah.
You know, your analysis came up with what we guessed it would be.
Yeah.
But the tough thing to do is, how you gonna get that occupancy up? What are you really gonna do initially, right off the bat, to get the occupancy increased in that 5-year period, so you can sell it at the price you want? And that's another tough nut to crack. It's like, you put the cart before the horse, the egg before the chicken. What is it? I mean, you repair all the mechanical systems to get the windows fixed, you do the HVAC, do all that, or do you just put some, say lipstick on a pig? You know, it's hard, you know. Then once you head down that road, you're already on the road, so a lot of pitfalls. But yeah, I think you did a great job of, regardless of whether or not your conclusion is good or bad, we don't know. Who knows? I think you did a decent analysis on everything, a good analysis on all.
Yeah, and I would assume that it would be better for them to invest the capital early so they can see the returns. Because if they don't invest the capital, they won't be able to realize that extra $3 per square foot that we got by looking at a 5-mile radius from the property and looking at the average rents from Bench Green out in a 5-mile radius, and we came to the conclusion that the average rent was around $20 per square foot triple net. So we assume that given the capital costs that we're going to invest in $3 per square foot to $18 per square foot market rent was a reasonable assumption to make.
Yeah, and the trick is, like Adam asked, where are you going to get that capital?
Yeah, so like I said, I believe that we need a cash-heavy investor, given that the current cost of capital is very expensive. So in order to maximize our IRR on return on cost, I believe that it would be best to sell the property either to an investor or maybe partner with an investor that can give us cash for equity in the building.
Well, think this through now. What's the loan amount of the building right now?
Yeah, all the debt services is
It's zero.
yeah, it's zero.
So why don't you put a lien, not a finance, why don't you get a mortgage?
Yeah, that could be another analysis, another alternative that the owners can definitely look at.
Have the bank finance it.
Yeah.
I have to point out that I think you guys identified the basic requirements for a successful commercial office property. Your motto of being safe, reliable, and comfortable, and then tying in your improvements to achieve that goal is commendable. You guys did a really good job. Understanding the HVAC system and how not having proper window tinting can exhaust your HVAC system. I mean, you guys have an understanding of the mechanical systems of the building. I think you addressed that very well. Overall, I think your presentation, really points to the deficiencies in the property, and to Rich's point, again, the challenge is just how do you pay for it, right? That's always a big question at the end of the day. But I think you did an excellent analysis of what needs to be prepared to provide a reliable office building. The question would be, how do you set that apart in the marketplace from the buildings down the street? Y'all addressed something I thought was great. You didn't find it. You couldn't find a building, marketing wise, and just talking about getting the exposure out there for the leasing brokers so they know it's available. This was excellent. This was very well done.
Is there any more questions?
We'd just like you to stand up there so you can walk. Really good job.
I do want to commend all of y'all on such a job well done. I mean, the quality of your presentations, the material that you presented today, just the fact that you have to get in front of all of us and do a presentation, I mean, so impressive. I think you should all give yourselves a round of applause. This was very difficult for us. We did really discuss positives, growth opportunities for all of you throughout our review of your presentations. The one that stood out to us the most told a really clear story. There was a clear plan of action. They addressed the core issues of the property. They followed the basic fundamentals, both operationally and from a leasing perspective as well. Should I just announce this that we're all waiting for?
I think you're right.
So with the score, the total score of 11.45, average between the 5 of us, the winner is UT.
The other scores were very close.
Very close.
So you all did a really good job. Some of you were more polished than others. We can tell that there was a lot of work that went on in the background. Happened. Some of you did a better job walking us down the path to show us that work and how it leads to the conclusion that you came up with than some others. So it might have been going to as well.
So just kind of each individual.
Sure. SMU, you guys were incredibly polished. That was an excellent presentation. I would put 5 of you in front of a client any day. Job well done. I mean, really, really well done. We thought you had an excellent data analysis throughout your entire presentation.
One thing that we would recommend is just have a better understanding of how you're going to fund your leasing costs. That can be a sizable expense with renewables and new leasing. Just have a better understanding of how you're going to fund your capital leasing costs. For UNT, honestly, we thought you guys had the best course of action. Your course of action is to sell the building. We really thought that that was the best course of action presented. That goes against a lot of what we learned. A lot of us want to invest money, improve a property. We thought selling the property was a great course of action. One thing that we would recommend is to get a better understanding of the tax value of the property and how that relates to market value of the property. And then for UT, just we recommend maybe improving your understanding of financing the improvements that you guys have proposed. Maybe review several different options rather than just pursuing one so that you can show which one's the best. What else?
Questions for us? Open budgets.
Hats off to all of you for just being involved like you are, and don't stop here. I mean, as you continue your career, be involved and be a part of a bigger organization. Help your colleagues along the way, and just continue to do what you learn to do in the city.
Just out of curiosity, how many of y'all, okay.
I do have one question, and something that has bothered me for a while was that the property manager did say that the removal of the fountains was way too expensive, and I would like your personal opinion on how you feel about the removal or putting in place.
So one of,
That's a great question.
yeah, it really is. I think that manager has misled you, because one of the problems with this property is it hasn't been maintained well the way that it needs to. And so you can see evidence of that over time. And those fountains are going to continue to do that. So all you're doing is kicking that can down the road a little bit. It's not solving the problem. We had one team say, take out a fountain, put in a coffee shop. And that's a great solution, because you stop the problems that you've had in the past and you turn it into creating a new amenity with that space, and you utilize that space. Interesting in, so fountains are great as long as they work and they're new, and soon it becomes a headache to deal with forever. So you'll see them in older buildings where they're turned into rock gardens and all that kind of stuff. Jake said they're the best fountains in the planet.
Yes.
One thing I didn't hear that I thought was interesting, I wanted to see if anybody had thought about, was filling in those atriums with floor space. Anybody think of that or analyze that?
What did you say?
Converting the atriums into usable office space.
We were kind of having a similar proposal for our team. It's just that because the property manager told us that fact about how it would be too costly, we kind of abandoned that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you find that it would cost a lot less than you think it would. Like Adam said, you're solving a lot of problems by doing that. Because if you'd had a chance to go out and get some bids, you'd have seen that it wouldn't be that expensive.
Okay.
And another thing about fountains and those water features in buildings, you ask any engineer how they feel about those fountains, and they just get them out of there, because it creates a part of your HVAC job is to control humidity in all of your building, and that just sends it up the wall. Try to do that. It creates a lot of challenges. So once I don't know how many years you're going to be an operator, so probably maybe one or two years hopefully. But and that's okay. But you need to know about your buildings, and that's one thing that keep those water features out. Building walls too. Don't put it in the big wall. You know what I mean?
And something else to point out. So like, there's 5 of us seasoned industry veterans over here. We all work for a different company. And so what I'm trying to say is that property manager, maybe it's her company next week, maybe it's his company 2 weeks after that. There's all these different viewpoints. Don't rely on an expert. Just because somebody tells you something, that doesn't mean that that's the way it's got to be. You got to do your own research and figure it out. So ask somebody else and get more than one opinion. Cancel with me.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if you guys want to answer this individually or as a group, but I mean, if you guys were in our position, how would you turn that property around?
How would we what?
What would you do if you were like in our position, right? So, you were the property manager of that building, what would you guys do?
I would do exactly like UNT did, get rid of it as fast as you can. You have all the
The difference in their plan was not to reinvest and spend capital up front and wait 3 years to sell it. It was sell it, get out. And so I think that's the best solution.
Well, I even think they went further to look at existing ownership and say, this is a bankrupt entity that's moving into self-storage facilities. So for this owner, their best course of action would be to monetize that, get out of that, and move over to their core and invest it in their core business. So I think they looked at it holistically, not just at the property level, saying, this is what we're going to do for this property, but we took into consideration the ownership's perspective going forward as well.
Which is in fact what that current owner is trying to do. They're trying to sell all of the properties. They just had some challenges. And the bankruptcy protection is that they have the previous CEO has done up the works in their plan. So that's why they sought the bankruptcy protection. They have equity in every one of the properties. It just happens that Venture Green and 4 others are free and clear. And they just can't get it across the goal line, so they're handcuffed. But so if you have a creative idea, you know, that owner financing is a great idea, if you could do it, get rid of that thing.
We actually did like those idea of doing the common desk or shared office space environment, given the location to entry contractual clubs behind that sort of individuals over there might not want to drive to a downtown or other core office, they don't want to have a satellite office over here, utilize that. And I think UTV said it would be open up the fence line so you have better visibility into the golf course and bring that element and make it cohesive so that the marketing to a group for space that would be positive for them, they wouldn't have to drive very far, they could get over to the office and go home quickly, possibly get on the golf course if they wanted to. So I thought that was a very good idea of utilizing that space or providing a way to take a large chunk of that space off the market. So I would explore that. Although we were just going back to there's a lot of concern in that shared office environment model, whether they have the capital to do that. In fact, I think Common Desk now is looking at more of a model where they become a management entity for the ownership instead of taking out the space, but it becomes a sub-manager to market and build out shared common space for the users in the building.
It was interesting to hear the 3 presentations and the 3 separate market analyses because UTD had market analysis to support your shared workspace. They had done an analysis of ages within a 5-mile radius of the property. Because the average was around 40, we think that would have supported your idea. So it's interesting to pull pieces from each of the teams. We could roundtable for hours talking about different approaches for the building by combining the work that you did. Is there a straightforward answer besides selling? I'm not sure. I think you all did a very, very good job of coming up with creative solutions to help this property.
I think all of y'all said this would be a value play, so this would be a value office play for everybody, which is the only way this property is going to advance over somebody else. It's going to either be back office because of lack of amenities in the area and in the building. So it's not going to be somebody who has to recruit that's trying to impress potential employees coming in. It's somebody who's established. They don't need those amenities. Their workforce is going to come in and work and leave. If they want to go to the gym, they go to the gym. If they want to go to a restaurant, they're going to go to a restaurant. It's not going to be highly valued children. The corollary to that is that they're going to want to have the rent driving the decision on the space. It has to be nice. I think all of you will address the fact that the property has to be improved on aesthetics. The landscape needs to be done. The garage needs to be bright and cleaned, and I don't think I'll correlate it. We talked about the fountain, so there's humidity in the space, but then you jump to the garage and say it's got leak issues. But you never said that the fountain is what's leaking into the garage, it's causing all the water in there. So, you know, I think identifying those issues and then finding creative, low-cost solutions is going to be how this property succeeds. And it's going to be evaluated. Marketing was one area that we felt that everybody could have addressed a little bit more in terms of how you're going to address it in the broker community. And also the heavily brokered environment, so most deals have a broker on both sides of the deal. So how are you going to market it to these new improved buildings to the brokerage community? How do you get out when you sell? Is the value side, you need to show that. I think UTD did the best job of analyzing what's going to happen on renewals and telling us about it. Everybody might have done the same analysis, but we can necessarily see it in the presentation because you had a 20% roll almost in the next 6 months of the building. That's going to be a cost. The question I think some of y'all have on the fact that you have open home environments. So even if you're coming up for renewal for a tenant, are they going to renew for half the space that they had before because they don't need it because half their workforce is working from home? So really kind of looking and saying, what is the demand for this space going forward? I think that's when you can do the best job of analyzing the types of tenancies in there, potential impact the downturn in the economy might have on them. But really kind of analyzing what's the likelihood of renewal, what kind of runways we could achieve on renewal, everybody hit on that. What kind of concessions, free rent, and then turning that around to a cash flow analysis, saying how much cash are we going to need in order to support the negative rents we're not going to get in, do the free rent, commissions we're not going to pay, and TIs we're not going to spend to keep those tenants in place. And then, is it likely that we renew 100% of our tenants? Probably not. If it's 80%, which if you're underwriting, that's probably what you would say is we have an 8% renewal factor. But the correlate to that is that are they going to renew for 100% of their space? So even if you had 80% renewing, and it took half or 60% of the space, then that's still going to translate to an effective rent ahead of 50% of those going away. So something just to think about.
I'm convinced you know what you're talking about.
Other questions?
I have a question over the tax assessed. You said for UNT that we should have a better confirmation of tax assessed value. Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Tax assessed value obviously is something that's going to be reviewed during any due diligence process. But you want to be careful not to confuse tax assessed value with market value. We would have liked to have seen a breakdown of your estimated market value, current market value. We didn't see that in your presentation. It wasn't made clear, NOI, cap rate, what is your basic understanding of the current market value? You leaned heavily on the tax value, so we would have liked to have seen your understanding of the market value of the building.
I think we also had some confusion in our minds of, I think your in-place cap rate was 7.9% and your exit was 12.
I think that was it.
No. Don't make a presentation.
I know our numbers are 7.9 and 12%.
We were confused a little bit about that, why there would be a higher capital conversion when you're stabilized than when you're in place when the property was stabilized.
You just said it was going to be a higher NOI. So.
Yeah, the NOIs and how you got the NOI, we had a little bit of question about what the retention rate would be for tenants and what their market rents would be. But typically an unstabilized property would have a higher cap rate associated with it because the market's going to factor in the cost of that uncertainty into their analysis when they make that acquisition. So if I'm looking at a property that has a very stabilized rent roll, that has a long-term potential rent income, then I'm willing to pay more for that, which in turn converted is a lower cap rate for that property than a property that has a lot of downside risk. You know, a premium return for that risk premium, so I have a higher cap rate on any place than a property that's stabilized and I would on the exit. Unless there was market dynamics that change that, interest rates continue to go up and other things happen, but just making assumptions that, you know, they're static in the market right now, that you would have a higher cap rate associated with your in place than you would have our exit.
To be fair to all parties, you need to study your client. And if your client is asking $11 million, regardless of what the market price is, and Transwestern is currently valuing that at $11 million, or the client's willing to accept it, the fact that the client had declared bankruptcy, you study your client before you make your conclusions, in my opinion. And where money's going to come from on a Chapter 11 to retrofit and things like that. You know, it wasn't clear, they didn't make it clear that they realized it was actually for sale.
Yeah, that's one of the things on UGD, which I did recognize the bankruptcy, and asking an investor to come in and invest with the bankrupt ownership. That's where we were saying we need to explore how you would get those funds in. I think the question I asked you is, would you consider sell? Because in essence, that's what you're doing, is that somebody's going to come in, you know, the analysis in the bank, what you said you needed, everything was very clear, but again, an angel investor coming in to just hand over $4 million, which is the total, you know, making them alive for the first year, was probably unlikely. They would buy the property to get returns that you were talking about. Or if the current ownership worked through and came out of bankruptcy, that they would do a loan for half the value of the building to get those proceeds and bring it to where it needs to be. So I have a question for y'all. You're all in school right now, but you're going to graduate. How many of you are looking at going in on the transaction side of the business? Leasing, investment sales, anything like that? I'm just asking.
Don't be sorry, that's where the money is.
We only had 3. How many of you are thinking more about taking general services, either going into law or looking at financial analysis, asset management, or
This was looking for financial analysis when they kicked off, if I'm not mistaken. I remember most of you guys are going to do that. Guys,
then how about direct operational property management? How many of you don't know?
There's gonna be a YouTube star. Nobody's raising hands. What are you guys gonna do?
I can start off real quick. I was thinking about maybe becoming like some sort of developer for mixed-use communities. Mixed-use development specifically.
Okay.
I really like the real estate provider green sector, more so like the acquisitions, asset management tools.
So that question is for us about industry, or anything we can help go with, or thoughts, or guidance?
Any chance that we can review the scorecards after we're done with it?
Sorry. No, good question, but no, we can read our notes anyway.
Right. And do you think interest rates are going to go down
So I just read an article about this yesterday, actually, and the trend was ugly until 25. Yeah, we'll see.
And that probably means that it just stabilizes and maybe goes down there, but not Right now, we need stabilization. And we need to stop moving. People can make decisions. You can deal with whatever you have as long as you know that's what it's going to be. And right now, people can't tell.
And it's interesting too, because from y'all's perspective, interest rates have only increased throughout your lifetime. They've trended very differently in ours. They started higher than they are now. They went to historical lows, and now they're trending back up to somewhere I think will be more in the median range. So yes, it's having an economic impact. They don't scare me. I think it's just a normal that we'll have to get used to again.
So when I started my career, I had a property that was at an 18% interest rate. And that was not a distressed property. That's what the interest rates were then.
So a lot of local and regional banks are in the commercial lending game, and a lot of them are holding those senior notes with balance sheets. A lot of them are also coming due in the next 2024 and 2025. Do you think there's going to be a pullback of the smaller regional banks from lending commercial real estate as they've taken significant losses on those loans?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because right now they haven't necessarily taken a loss. They've done reserves, they've increased their reserves to for those potential losses. But the only ones that are really seeing taking real estate back right now are the investment trusts that really don't have any mechanism to kick the can down the road. They have to take the asset back. So, you know, if you're a securitized loan and that loan is maturing, you know, as an owner, you have a couple of choices. One, you can either give it back. Two, you can go look at different financing options. But in most cases, given the environment we're in today, there's a substantial amount of equity that's going to have to come back into the property. And you've got to ask yourself as an owner, am I willing to reinvest in this property to the level that it's going to be required to keep it, or is there really no more value left and I might as well just exit now? From a regional bank perspective, they are more likely to try to work out a loan scenario because they're not in the business of owning real estate. In fact, most of them got rid of their REO departments a long time ago because there was just no need for them. And so they don't have the capability or the ability, or the interest, I should say, to own that real estate. So anything they can do to kind of, if the sponsorship is good, ownership is good, and they have a plan of action going forward with this asset, then they much rather look at it and say, let's work with them to see what's needed, maybe take a position where they can participate in the upside of that, and then exit in the markets that are. Other banks that you're going to see are selling loans. They're just saying, you know, we've underwritten it, we're done. We'll sell these to other investors that are willing to buy these loans and not take those properties back as a on their balance sheet scheduled loans. So kind of a mixed bag of things. It really comes down to the underlying real estate, kind of what you did today, and then looking at it and analyzing it to determine is there an upside. Our knowledge base up here, being the amount of real estate that's available, the quality of real estate that's available, would I want to invest in this project going forward? And I think this is like UNT's, let's just get rid of it. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily believe that you could achieve what you thought you were going to get on the sell, but you know, this asset, the design of the atrium aspect of it, there's just a lot other better real estate that has needs that I would rather invest in than that project itself. Which I think is reflective of the market out there. And the market's tough. I mean, if you can find a lender, kind of your question, are banks lending, what are they doing with their existing loans? There are loans out there that for office right now, finding equity and finding debt is almost impossible. You know, unless you're coming in and have an all-cash buyer, which they're going to look at and say they're going to have to be a hell of a return, and as Adam said, you know, certainly with interest rates and other things, and the impact of work from home an office that you just don't know. I live large property here in Dallas that we're looking at acquiring that had a fairly good valuation on it, but when you walk through there, it was only about 25-30% utilized in the office space. And you're like, okay, this doesn't have any near-term role, but good Lord, when that rolls, then if we retain every tenant in that building, and we might only be retaining 30% of the income stream that was in place because they just don't need that. So given the uncertainty of it, it's hard to actually underwrite a model that makes sense today. But you always, I hate to say it, you find the stupid fool theory that somebody is stupid enough to buy it because it just sounds too good to be true. And buy it, if it's a price per square foot, and they go, hey, I can buy this for $50 a square foot, and I'm going to pay $800 a square foot. I should buy this because it's cheaper anyplace else. Well, you get what you pay. When you sell it, you buy it for 50, you sell it for 50, you put up $20 a foot in its cost, and you realize that I'm not going as good a deal as I thought it was. So fundamentals is always important. This property has some very challenging fundamentals with it to make it an investor friendly opportunity.
If the leading causes of inflation, I mean, you could say the only causes of inflation are government spending and printing money. What do you think the Federal Reserve's play is by continuing to increase interest rates? Wouldn't they want to slow down spending, slow down printing money to help our economy?
Well, in fact, they are. By increasing interest rate, it takes the demand for money out of there. So, if I'm investing in new infrastructure, new plants, new equipment, if I can borrow at 3% and I'm earning 10% return on my investment, then I will borrow 3% all day long and earn 10%. But if I'm borrowing at 8%, and now my cost of eroding my return down to 8%, I'm going to borrow money to put into the market to affect that. Consumers, same thing, if I'm paying more in debt, I'm paying less, I have less money to buy product as well. So, they're also using other tools, going through banks and ensuring that their underwriting and that their reserves are higher, so they have less capacity to lend as well.
The Fed is also kind of under the gun too, because they're mainly basing their interest rate raises off the CPI figures, which are heavily impacted by the crude oil prices, which have been heavy increases due to the war in Ukraine. It's already kind of slowing out production there, so it's kind of between a rock and a hard place with factors they can't control at all.
Yeah, you look at core inflation and then you look at broader inflation. You try to strip out those items that have short-term arbitrary increases to inflation rates and try to look at more core. But the other side of the costs have gone up. They're not, as some people think, will go down. It's hard to go into somebody and say, hey, I'm going to give you 97% of what I paid you last year because inflation's gone down. Excuse me? I thought we were talking about my next pay increase. No, we're talking about a decrease. We're in a deflationary environment. Costs are not going to go down. So we have set a benchmark on cost, and inflation, and core inflation is one of those ones that it's hard to tell when you put too much in and too much out. I mean, as you commented, stimulus money that went in has really caused the inflationary environment we have. And there's still more stimulus coming. I don't know if you'll know about the employee retention credit, ERC, that still hasn't been paid out fully. There's still billions of dollars that are going back to employers that retained employees during COVID that will come back in terms of corporate profits that will be used to do distributions to investors or what. So there's still more stimulus happening out there. The whole, what is it, the act that just came out that inflation and everything else,
The inflation protection.
yeah, inflation protection. It puts more stimulus out there in order to invest in infrastructure to accommodate electrification. So, all those are inflationary pressures because you're adding money onto the heating environment. You have drag pull or cost push inflation, and right now we've got both going on. So, it's an interesting time. So, answer interest rates are going to go up in the short term. They're at the highest level right now. They have been in a number of years. They're not 18%, so they're still historically low. If you look historical average, you say 67% is not bad from the historical average. It's bad from your environment because y'all were used to much lower interest rates, almost free money. But it will go up and then it will come back down to a more stabilized level. Down, so markets hate uncertainty. If there's uncertainty, it's hard to put a number on something today, which is why most of the transactions are not going to happen. Most of these products that are for sale right now are not going to transact because nobody can either find equity, because equity is like, kind of say that you're doing your analysis, you think about this and then this and do that. Well, about 30% of the space is not being utilized. What's going on with this? Their oil industry, so what's going to happen with oil and gas? What's happening with real estate? So it's a lot of challenges ahead. To me, it's a great time to be an analyst because you get to look at a bunch of different aspects and analyze the potential impact that would have on your investment as well.
I started my career in residential development, and I survived 2008. But I also worked for a gentleman who just saw that as an opportunity and gobbled up every distressed asset that he could at the time. So as markets transition, I just see it as opportunity. And those that can capitalize on that moment will be very successful. So nothing to stress about, just different focus.
I read about a Village newspaper, but basically stated that dry capital was up close to 20% basically year to date. A lot of private equity firms kind of recognize the opportunity that's soon to come with all this debt maturing. So it's going to be really interesting to see the asset management space for the next 3 to 5 years.
You still have the disconnect between sellers and buyers. There's going to be a realization that comes in when things don't transact and people have to sell. I think the question on lenders is going to be one where they might force to sell because either they're going to take the property back or it's going to sell. It's going to sell for a short sell or whatever. But until that realization or that capitulation happens, we still see things not selling. Yes, still just not getting taken away from this.
We would love to get a picture of each team behind the judges before you go, unless there's any more questions.